Hey Reddit, I'm Vanessa, 34, and I thought I had a pretty solid marriage until my aunt decided she wanted my husband for her daughter. She spread lies, turned my family against me, and made my life a living nightmare. But what she didn't know was that her own secret was about to blow up in her face. And when the truth came out, none of us were prepared for the fallout. Buckle up because this story is a wild one. Let me start by saying that family drama is nothing new in my life. Growing up, my Aunt Linda was the queen of stirring up trouble. Whether it was spreading rumors at family gatherings or pitting relatives against each other, she always found a way to be at the center of chaos. Still, I never thought she'd cross the line into my marriage until she did. My husband, Ethan, and I had been married for 5 years. We weren't perfect, but we were happy, or so I thought. That all changed about 6 months ago when Linda started making comments that, at first, seemed harmless. It began during my cousin Rachel's birthday party. The whole family was there, kids running around, barbecue sizzling, the usual chaos of a family get-together. I was chatting with my mom when I noticed Linda hovering near Ethan, her smile a little too bright, her laugh a little too loud. "Vanessa, you're so lucky," she cooed, patting Ethan's arm. "A man like him doesn't come around often. Handsome, successful, and so good with the kids." I forced a smile, brushing off the uneasy feeling that settled in my stomach. Over the next few weeks, the comments kept coming, always subtle, always just enough to make me question if I was imagining things. "You know, Rachel would make such a good match for a guy like Ethan," Linda said one afternoon as we stood by the grill. Her smile was sweet, but her eyes, there was something calculating there. I laughed it off at first. "Linda, Ethan's my husband." "Of course, dear," she replied, her smile never wavering. "I'm just saying, sometimes people end up with the wrong person." At first, I tried to ignore it. Linda had always been a little intense. But as the weeks went on, her comments became harder to brush aside. She started pointing out my flaws, my cooking, my appearance, even the way I raised my daughter, Lily. And she always made sure to do it in front of other family members. "Poor Ethan," she'd say with a laugh. "I don't know how he puts up with all that stress at home. No wonder he enjoys spending time with Rachel so much." I confronted Ethan one night after dinner, my nerves stretched to the breaking point. "Ethan, has something been going on between you and Rachel?" His eyes widened in shock. "What? No. Vanessa, where is this coming from?" "Linda keeps making comments, saying you and Rachel have so much in common, that you're unhappy with me." "Vanessa, that's ridiculous," he interrupted, taking my hands in his. "Rachel's like a little sister to me. I would never. I love you." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But the doubt had already taken root, and no matter how many times I told myself I was being paranoid, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Then the rumors started. It began with little things, whispers from family members, side glances at gatherings. My mom, always the first to hear gossip, pulled me aside one evening after dinner. "Vanessa, is everything okay between you and Ethan?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "Yeah, why?" "I heard Linda saying that Ethan's been unhappy lately. That maybe he'd be better off with someone else." My stomach twisted into knots. She actually said that? My mom hesitated, her gaze dropping to her hands. "She's been hinting at it, and a few of the others have started talking. Just keep an eye on things, okay?" That was the moment I knew something was seriously wrong. Over the next few weeks, Linda's campaign to sabotage my marriage went into full swing. Suddenly, every family gathering felt like a battleground. She'd make snide comments about my cooking, my appearance, even the way I raised my kids, always loud enough for others to hear, always with that infuriating smile. "Ethan must have so much patience," she'd say with a laugh, "putting up with all that stress at home. No wonder he enjoys spending time with Rachel so much." I confronted Ethan again, desperate for answers. "Why is she doing this?" I asked, my voice shaking with frustration. "Why is she trying to turn everyone against me?" Ethan wrapped his arms around me, holding me close. "I don't know," he whispered, "but I promise you, there's nothing going on. I love you, Vanessa. Don't let her get inside your head." I wanted to believe him. But Linda's words had planted a seed of doubt that was slowly growing into something I couldn't ignore. Then came a night that changed everything. It was a Saturday evening, and Ethan had gone out with friends. At least, that's what he told me. But something didn't sit right. Maybe it was the way he'd avoided my eyes when he left, or the fact that he'd been spending more and more time working late over the past few weeks. So I did something I'd never done before. I tracked his location through the family phone app. What I saw made my blood run cold. He wasn't at the bar. He was at a hotel across town. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, my mind racing with 1,000 possibilities, none of them good. I tried to convince myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe he was meeting a friend who needed a place to crash. Maybe anything but the one thing I couldn't bear to think. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I grabbed my keys and drove to the hotel, my heart hammering so hard it felt like it might break through my chest. By the time I pulled into the parking lot, my hands were slick with sweat, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, staring at the hotel entrance, trying to work up the courage to go inside. But before I could move, the door swung open, and there they were, Ethan and Linda. For a moment, the world tilted beneath my feet, and I thought I might actually pass out. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, my vision blurring as hot tears burned behind my eyes. They didn't see me, too busy laughing at some shared joke, their hands brushing together as they walked toward the parking lot. And that's when the rage hit. White hot, all-consuming rage that burned away the shock, the heartbreak, the disbelief. Without thinking, I threw open the car door and stepped into their path. "Having fun, you two?" They froze, their laughter dying instantly. Ethan's face drained of color, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Vanessa, save it!" I snapped, my voice shaking with fury. I turned to Linda, my pulse thundering in my ears. "So this was your plan all along? Convince everyone I wasn't good enough, turn my family against me, so you could have him for yourself?" "Vanessa, don't." I cut her off, my voice rising. "Don't you dare try to lie your way out of this. I saw you. Her mouth snapped shut, her eyes darting to Ethan as if searching for an escape. But there was none. Not this time. The drive home was a blur. I barely remembered how I got there. Only that by the time I walked through the front door, my whole body was shaking so badly I had to sit down before I collapsed. Ethan showed up an hour later, his face pale and drawn. "Vanessa, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" I shouted, the anger and betrayal finally boiling over. "That you've been sneaking around with my aunt behind my back? That you let her tear my life apart while you..." My voice broke, tears spilling down my cheeks as the weight of it all crashed over me. "How could you do this to me? I never meant for it to happen," he said desperately, dropping to his knees beside me. "It was a mistake. God, it was the biggest mistake of my life. But I swear, Vanessa, I love you. I love you. Then why wasn't I enough?" I whispered, my voice cracking with the weight of the question that had been haunting me since the moment I saw them together. In that moment, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The silence in our house was suffocating. After Ethan's pathetic attempt at an apology, I couldn't even look at him. Every time I closed my eyes, all I saw was him and Linda laughing together like their betrayal was some kind of joke. But the worst part? The whispers had already started. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up with texts from family members. Apparently, Linda had wasted no time spinning her version of events. "Mom, Vanessa, what's going on? Linda says you accused her of something ridiculous last night. Call me. Rachel. Hey, are you okay? Mom's acting weird. She won't tell me what happened. Aunt Karen. Vanessa, I don't know what's going on, but you need to stop causing drama. This is tearing the family apart." I threw my phone onto the couch, my hands shaking with frustration. Of course, Linda had twisted the story to make herself look like the victim. She'd probably told everyone I was paranoid, jealous, maybe even unstable. And knowing my family, they believe her. After all, Linda had spent years perfecting her role as the concerned, well-meaning aunt who just wanted the best for everyone. I was about to learn just how far she'd go to protect that image. That afternoon, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the cold cup of coffee in front of me. Ethan sat across from me, his hands clasped together as if he were praying for a second chance. "Vanessa, please, we need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about," I replied flatly. "Yes, there is," he insisted. "I know I messed up, but it wasn't what you think. It only happened once." I slammed my hand on the table, the sound echoing through the kitchen. Don't you dare sit there and try to downplay what you did. You didn't just cheat, you did it with my aunt. And you let her spend months tearing me down, making me look like a fool in front of my own family. Do you have any idea what that feels like?" Ethan's shoulders slumped, his eyes filling with regret. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I swear, Vanessa, I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. Things like that don't just happen," I shot back. "You made a choice. Both of you did. And now, you're going to have to live with the consequences." By the next day, the rumors were out of control. Linda had gone into full damage control mode, painting herself as the victim of my baseless accusations. She claimed I was jealous of her close relationship with Ethan, that I'd twisted innocent interactions into something sinister because I couldn't handle my own insecurities. And the worst part? Some people believed her. "Vanessa, maybe you misunderstood what you saw," my mom suggested hesitantly over the phone. "Linda said she was just meeting Ethan to talk about how worried she was about your marriage." "Oh, come on, Mom," I interrupted, my voice shaking with frustration. "She wasn't worried. She was trying to steal my husband. And she succeeded." "Sweetheart, I know Linda can be intense," Mom said carefully. "But would she really do something like that?" "She already did. I saw them with my own eyes." There was a long pause. "I just don't want to see the family torn apart over a misunderstanding," Mom said finally. Tears of frustration burned behind my eyes as I hung up without another word. Later that night, Ethan and I sat down to talk about what came next. "I need you to move out," I said quietly, staring at the floor. "Vanessa, please don't do this. Think about Lily." "I'm thinking about her," I snapped, looking up to meet his gaze. "Do you think I want her to grow up in a house full of lies and betrayal? She deserves better. I deserve better." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his expression crumbling. "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't know. And honestly, I don't care." Ethan moved out the next morning. Watching him pack his things was like ripping off a bandage that had been clinging to an open wound. Each item he carried out the door felt like another piece of our life together being stripped away. And yet, as I stood in the doorway and watched him drive away, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Because for the first time in months, I could breathe. But if I thought the worst was over, I was wrong. 2 days later, Linda showed up at my house. I opened the door to find her standing on the porch, her arms crossed and her eyes blazing with fury. "Well, I hope you're happy," she spat. "You've completely destroyed this family." I stepped outside, shutting the door firmly behind me. "I've destroyed the family?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You're the one who slept with my husband. Don't you dare try to pin this all on me," she shot back. "Ethan came to me, remember? Maybe if you'd been a better wife, he wouldn't have needed someone else." I lunged forward before I could stop myself, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. "You have no right to stand here and blame me for your disgusting choices. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you didn't care who got hurt as long as you got what you wanted. Maybe if you weren't so selfish, you'd see that Ethan deserves to be happy," Linda hissed. "And honestly, he's better off without you." My vision blurred with rage. "Get off my property before I call the police." For a moment, I thought she might actually hit me. But then she stepped back, her lips curling into a sneer. "You'll regret this, Vanessa. Mark my words." And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving me shaking with fury and disbelief. I thought that was the end of it. But Linda wasn't done. Over the next week, she launched a full-blown smear campaign against me. She called relatives, told them I was mentally unstable, that I'd driven Ethan away with my jealousy and erratic behavior. Some believed her, others didn't, but the damage was done. Suddenly, family gatherings were off limits. Invitations stopped coming. People I'd known my whole life wouldn't even look me in the eye. Linda had succeeded in turning the family against me. But what she didn't know was that her own secret was about to come crashing down. Because while Linda was busy destroying my reputation, she forgot that secrets have a way of coming to light. And this time, karma was about to deliver the knockout punch. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that secrets have a way of unraveling when you least expect it. And no matter how hard you try to control the narrative, the truth always finds a way to slip through the cracks. Linda was about to learn that the hard way. A week after her little porch showdown, I got a call from Rachel, my cousin and Linda's daughter. "Vanessa, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice shaky. I tensed. Since the fallout with Ethan, I hadn't spoken to Rachel. I wasn't sure if she believed her mother's lies or not. "What's going on?" I asked cautiously. Rachel hesitated. "Can we meet? I think I know something you need to hear." We met that evening at a coffee shop on the edge of town. Rachel looked like she hadn't slept in days, dark circles under her eyes, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "I don't even know where to start," she admitted. "Just tell me the truth," I urged, leaning forward. "Whatever it is, I can handle it." Rachel took a deep breath. "Okay, so you know how my mom's been spreading all those lies about you?" "Yeah," I replied bitterly. "She's made sure everyone thinks I'm the villain in all of this." Rachel nodded. "Well, there's more to it. I overheard her talking to Ethan the other night. She thought I was asleep, but I heard everything." My heart pounded. "What did she say?" She told him that their affair wasn't the only secret she was keeping," Rachel whispered, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief. She said she's pregnant." I swear my heart stopped beating for a moment. "Pregnant?" I echoed, my voice hoarse. Rachel nodded. "Yeah, and she said she's pretty sure Ethan's the father." The world seemed to tilt beneath me as the words sank in. Betrayal was one thing, but a baby? That changed everything. "How long has she known?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I don't know," Rachel admitted. "But it sounded like she's only a few weeks along. She told Ethan that he needed to step up and be there for her, and that if he didn't, she'd make sure everyone knew the truth." I sat back, stunned. Of all the possible outcomes, this was the one I hadn't seen coming. I thought I'd already felt the worst of the betrayal, but this was a whole new level of heartbreak. "Vanessa, I'm so sorry," Rachel said softly. "It's not your fault," I replied, my voice hollow. For the next few days, I barely slept. My mind wouldn't stop spinning, replaying every moment, every lie, every choice that had led us to this point. Part of me wanted to confront Ethan and demand answers. Part of me wanted to call Linda and unleash every ounce of anger I'd been holding back. But instead, I waited, because I had a feeling the truth was about to come out whether I wanted it to or not. Sure enough, it happened at the next family gathering. It was supposed to be a simple dinner at my parents' house, a chance to clear the air and try to move forward. At least, that's what my mom had said when she called to invite me. "Everyone's going to be there," she promised. "Maybe we can finally put all this drama behind us." I didn't have the heart to tell her that the drama was far from over. The tension was thick the moment I walked through the door. Conversations hushed as I entered the room, eyes darting toward me before quickly looking away. Linda stood near the fireplace, a glass of wine in her hand and a smug smile on her lips. Ethan hovered nearby, avoiding my gaze. I forced myself to smile and greet the others, pretending not to notice the whispers. But inside, my pulse was pounding. And then it happened. Halfway through dinner, Linda cleared her throat and stood up, tapping her glass for attention. "Everyone," she announced, her voice sweet with fake humility, "I have some wonderful news to share." Every muscle in my body tensed. "I'm expecting," she continued, placing a hand on her stomach with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And I'm happy to say that Ethan and I are going to be starting a new chapter together." Silence. Complete, stunned silence. You could have heard a pin drop as everyone processed what she just said. Then chaos. "Are you kidding me?" My mom gasped, her eyes wide with shock. "Linda, what the hell?" my dad started, only to be drowned out by the wave of voices rising around the table. "This has to be a joke," Aunt Karen muttered, shaking her head in disbelief. I just sat there, staring at Linda as my pulse pounded in my ears. Ethan's face had gone pale, his hands gripping the edge of the table like he was bracing for impact. And then, before I could stop myself, I started to laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that bubbles up when you've reached your breaking point, sharp, bitter, and unstoppable. Linda's smile faltered. "What's so funny, Vanessa?" she asked, her eyes narrowing. "Oh, Linda," I gasped between laughs, wiping tears from my eyes. "You've really outdone yourself this time. Congratulations. You've officially destroyed every relationship in this family. I hope it was worth it." "This isn't about you," she snapped, her voice rising. "Ethan and I are going to be happy together." "Happy?" I repeated, my laughter fading into cold disbelief. "You think this is going to make you happy? You think Ethan's going to magically fall in love with you just because you're having his baby?" Newsflash, Linda. Cheating doesn't build relationships. It destroys them. And trust me, this is going to destroy you too. Before she could respond, Ethan stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This isn't what I wanted," he said, his voice tight with barely contained emotion. "Linda, I told you I made a mistake. But this isn't the life I want." Her eyes widened. "Ethan, what are you?" "I'm not leaving Vanessa for you," he interrupted. "I never wanted this. And I'm not going to let you use this baby to trap me." Linda's face went pale. You can't just walk away." "Watch me," Ethan said, his voice flat. The rest of the night was a blur of shouting, accusations, and tears. By the time I left, my heart felt like it had been ripped out, stomped on, and thrown away. But as I stood outside beneath the cold night sky, taking deep breaths to steady myself, I realized something. I was free. Free from the lies. Free from the manipulation. Free from the weight of a marriage that had been falling apart long before I ever knew the truth. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was swift and brutal. Linda's reputation was ruined. The family turned against her once the full story came out. Her lies, her manipulation, her affair with Ethan. Even Rachel cut ties with her, unable to forgive what she'd done. As for Ethan, he tried to win me back. He promised he'd changed, that he'd do anything to fix what he'd broken. But some things are beyond repair. I filed for divorce. It wasn't easy. There were days when the grief felt like a weight I'd never escape. But with every step forward, I found a little more strength, a little more peace. And one day, I looked in the mirror and realized I was happy. Not because of what happened to Linda, not because Ethan had gotten what he deserved, but because I'd finally learned to choose myself. And that was the best revenge of all.